So Dillian Whyte went on TalkSport earlier on today to complain about the negotiations for the AJ fight. He completely denied the rumor that he demanded £10 million, as did Eddie Hearn, by the way, in a separate interview. They both denied it, so we can move past that. But Dillian Whyte did admit that Eddie Hearn indeed sent him an offer. And he says that he or his team replied to Eddie Hearn's offer with a number of questions. One of them was, why are you proposing this fight take place in the O2 Arena? This is a stadium fight. And the second question was, why are you trying to do this fight in August? Because a lot of the British public are going to be on holiday in August. Surely it makes more financial sense to do it later on in the year. Now, I can imagine Eddie Hearn's face when he received that reply from Dillian Whyte's team, because those questions, even to me, sound unreasonable. He knows why they are not going to do the fight later on in the year, why they want to do it in August, because Anthony Joshua is trying to negotiate a fight with Deontay Wilder in December. The idea that they would jeopardize the Wilder fight in December and prioritize the Dillian Whyte fight over the Wilder fight is absurd. They're not going to push back the Wilder fight to accommodate Dillian Whyte, obviously. Anthony Joshua, and I'm sure Eddie Hearn, see Dillian Whyte as a tune-up for AJ. And as for doing the fight in a stadium, Anthony Joshua barely sold out the O2 Arena last time out. And Dillian Whyte sold how many tickets against Jermaine Franklin? 6,000? 5,000? Once upon a time, as John Fury said, AJ could sell out Wembley Stadium fighting a dog in the road. It's not like that anymore. And those times when Dillian Whyte was doing whatever it was, 500,000 or 400,000 on pay-per-view against people like Joseph Parker, yeah, those days are over too. Now you might look at somebody like Derek Chisora, the comeback king, the guy who's got however many losses, I think 13, last time I checked, and say, well, he's always managed to come back and have big pay-per-view fights time and time again, despite all these losses. Well, first of all, Derek Chisora has been competitive in every single one of his losses except against Tyson Fury, the 3 losses to Fury. Outside of that, the rest of them were all competitive. Even his loss to David Haye, where he got knocked out, was competitive. His loss to Vitaly Klitschko was competitive. His knockout defeat to Dillian Whyte was competitive. He was ahead at the time he got knocked out. So again, if you're competitive in your losses, you can retain more value. And this is what Derek Chisora has done in his losses. And when he has been written off, in his comeback fight, he's put on a performance. We all remember the Carlos Takam fight, where he knocked Takam out dramatically in one of the best heavyweight slugfests we've seen in the past decade. Artur Szpilka wiped him out. So when you come back from your losses like that, yes, it's going to help raise your value up again. But when you come back the way that Dillian Whyte did against Jermaine Franklin or AJ did against Jermaine Franklin, that's not going to help. It's going to make things worse. Neither Anthony Joshua nor Dillian Whyte are as big a commercial draws as they used to be. Anthony Joshua beaten from pillar to post by Andy Ruiz a couple years back, and then more recently, back-to-back defeats to Usyk, where he was completely outboxed, and it was a very bad visual of this big guy scared to let his hands go against a much smaller guy. And then you come back against Jermaine Franklin, an obscure American heavyweight who can't punch, and you're absolutely terrified of him, gun-shy. Your commercial value goes down even more. And with Dillian Whyte, it's even worse because he got knocked out by a 40-year-old Povetkin. Then he gets knocked out by Tyson Fury in a fight that wasn't competitive at all. It was one-sided. It's not like Dillian Whyte managed to make an argument of it. No, he got completely outclassed. And then he comes back against Franklin and goes life and death. The perception that much of the public have of Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte right now is that they are a pair of over-the-hill fighters. And you want the public to turn out and fill up Wembley Stadium to see a rematch between these guys? That's a hard sell. Eddie Hearn knows it's a hard sell. Hearn's going to look at that and say, I don't need to deal with this nonsense. Let's just find someone else who's willing to be realistic. He says that's why they never got back to Dillian Whyte after that. And I can fully understand that. Dillian Whyte on the TalkSport interview said that he knows how Eddie Hearn works. His first offer is never his final offer. And Eddie Hearn responded in an interview he did an hour or two ago by implying that Dillian Whyte's team tend to be difficult to deal with. They give him a headache at the best of times. They drive a hard bargain, and people who drive a hard bargain eat into your time. When you're on a schedule, you don't want to deal with people like that. You want to deal with people who can do a deal quickly. Anyway, Eddie Hearn also revealed in his most recent interviews that since that appearance by Dillian Whyte on TalkSport, he got in contact with Dillian Whyte's team and asked them if they accepted the offer he sent them several weeks ago, because Dillian Whyte on the TalkSport interview said he would be willing to accept it now. Eddie Hearn said he assumes Dillian Whyte has looked elsewhere at different offers, potentially on different platforms with different promoters, and realized there isn't anything better than the Anthony Joshua offer, even if it's not as big as he wanted it to be. So Eddie Hearn said he asked them if they accept, as Dillian Whyte suggested in the TalkSport interview, and he said Dillian Whyte's team have said yes. He didn't seem 100% convinced, but he said if they're real, we'll be able to move quickly rather than going with this other opponent who they were set to announce in the next couple days. So let's see what happens here. Could we actually get the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte in August after all? We will soon see. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below.